Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for. Oh, I need this sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves for people together.
Welcome to EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses education to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through EDDIE-FICATION, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper health care and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family. Every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops with other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Mont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. And of course, it's a wonderful day to be alive. This time, so last week, we are nervous. But by the grace of God, we made it. Welcome to Edification 224, as we seek to provide continuous motivation and, of course, inspiration, flavored with current events as supportive examples to get the message across. Of course, when people can relate, they understand. Edification is laced with factual sharing that have been proved to be incontrovertible. The only thing that detractors hate about this particular program is the fact that a natural extrovert turned introvert and a virtual recluse who deliberately withdrew from the mainstream is the one enough guts and brawn to stand in the gap for truth and push back hard against the enablers of wrong and miscreants of society, calling them out from captain to cook. Last week, it would have been insensitive for us to have proceeded with our edition in the midst of the uncertainty with which we were faced by Hurricane Beryl, which maintained course straight for the state of Grenada, or to the anxiety which placed loads of us in knots, as several of us who took this thing seriously prepared in the event that Beryl actually struck, with so many others making light of what showed up as an extremely serious situation. Goodly folks, come on, as soon as you come into the room today, please remember to share, comment, like, love, do whatever you do, because you know what you do and you do it best. Take this program as interactive as you know how. Our discourse will be guided by the topic: stay away from people who act like a victim in problems they created. We promise to elaborate as we proceed, so continue to stay tuned, keenly tuned, with your chair totally pulled up. Could you imagine that on the last day of June 2024, we were staring down the barrel of such danger looming large over our tri-island state? Imagine 2024 seemed to have only just started, yet for all, we are halfway through already, facing further uncertainty as to whether any of the other predicted severe weather systems for the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season would actually repeat the track of Beryl, or systems, let's say close to that, north or south, ripping through our state once more. Wow. Oh, how time flies indeed. You see, I hasten to remind one and all, we are only 36 days into this year's hurricane season, with a balance of July to go, plus August, September, October, and November still to come. We need to prepare, folks. Our priorities need to be put in check so that we can provide for ourselves in the immediate aftermath of, if anything at all, should hit us. You see, again I say, prepare, prepare, prepare. Put your priorities in check. Imagine this is the early aftermath of the passage of Hurricane Beryl. a category 5, making history, breaking record. And so soon after, you will hear a puerile discussion as to whether we should have carnival or not. You see where our head is? Lack of priorities. I am not saying we should. I am not saying we shouldn't. But that should not be a discussion. Let the authorities make that decision. And let us see what we can do to focus on what really matters, rather than fet. You see, it's quite true that none of us will live forever. But living forever, immortality, is not a good idea at all if you really want a life of meaning. Seneca argues, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. This is so factual for so many among us who insist on wasting their lives. Life's very shortness is, in fact, the primary source of its actual meaning. Life is indeed short, and it is for good reason. Having a grasp of this reality, do you think the way we live, we can good use of our short existence? You see, folks, when we view the behavior and expressions of many on social media, oh, indeed, we surely know what the answer to that is. I wish I knew all that I came to know when I was in my late 40s and going forward, long before, when I actually took serious stock and ended up taking the path I am on currently, where I have become totally selective as to who I let into my life and my space. I am sure as day that I would have been further along in my personal growth and progress. It is never too late, folks. Never too late to take stock and live in an uninterrupted flow, as I can attest to. You see, I keep my peace by staying in a safe space where I can read, and pay attention otherwise. So I cannot be taken for a fool. You see, just as a side note here, folks, have you ever noticed that when you really connect with someone or people, you really enjoy them? You really feel each other, gaining something from each other's presence. What happens to time when you actually connect like that? Time flies. On the contrary, when you get stuck in a situation with someone you really don't care for, you may even sometimes have to knock your watch to see if it stopped working or something. Time slows down when you are with people who get on your last nerve. But when you are in proximity with the right one or the right ones, you often lose track of time. You talk and laugh and wondered, where did the time go? But when you are not feeling chemistry with people, time just slows down almost to a trickle. Goodly folks, today is a symbolic day for us all. Why? We are alive. And where there's life, there's what is hope? Feeling of expectancy and desire for a certain thing to happen. All of us have aspirations, expectations, and even desires that we would like to achieve before we croak. We surely will not achieve any of them just by standing still and doing the undesirable things we continue to do as a matter of course, which would continue to yield the same results that we can't do anything with while we seek to get closer to achieving them. Remember what I always say, folks. If you keep on doing what you're doing, you will keep on getting what you're getting. If therefore you do not like what you're getting presently, you have to stop doing what you are currently doing. Guilty folks among us don't like to hear this, but I will repeat it until cows come home. You have to fix your priorities. Put some order, put some structure in your one life that you have. You cannot crave the material trappings of life while you continue to live in squalor and experience substandard living and blaming others for your circumstances. You have a responsibility to fix that by following the proper sequence of life. None of us was born to live in perpetual depravity. None, absolutely none of us. We were born to grow and to excel. What does grow mean again? Get rid of weaknesses. Come on, folks. Put that in the comment section. Let's get some interaction here. Grow means get rid of weaknesses. Let us get rid of our weaknesses so we can grow. I am convinced the more you write is the more it becomes a part of you. Tidy up your focus on acquiring material acquisitions and focus on what's important right at this moment. Each day, folks, each day, and we have to understand that. Your focus becomes stronger. You will start to see the desired changes in your life taking root. For whatever you focus on the longest surely becomes the strongest in your life. Right now, too many of you are focusing on the wrong things without realizing the sequence that is associated with them. And so they continue to delude you, giving you the commensurate results. Change is necessary. In focusing on the wrong things, you are known to not pay attention, and you end up being taken for fools by your captors and even would-be captors. This edition of edification is number 224. What signals are angels sending to us via this number 224? Folks, find balance in your life. Find inner peace. Believe in yourself and express gratitude for all the blessings you have. You see, you have life. You can breathe. You had breakfast this morning. You probably are having lunch now or planning lunch. Folks, those are blessings, man. Give thanks. You see, I believe it was Zig Ziglar who said, gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude for what you have, the more likely you will have even more to express gratitude for. With number 224, angels are also letting you know that the divine realm is offering you guidance. Surrender to the divine realm. Everything we recently experienced could have been worse, but for the grace of God. You see, seeing angel number 224 means to work hard towards success. Your angels are guiding you on the right path, but it's up to you to stay on course. In fact, you are the one who are in control of where life takes you, and your ascended masters are here to help you make good decisions. In the flesh, people are not likely to take on the spirit role in your life to assist you. If they cannot see evidence of you going somewhere desirably, that is not going to happen at all. Change your expectations. Change your desires. Change your aspirations. And remember, the product may be manifested in material comfort, but for the end achieved, the beginning must be cleared of all mental clutter. Change your attitude towards life, and you will change the results you surely receive. Our topic for today has carefully selected to reflect the need for change among us. Too many of us complain, and complain without getting up and actually taking action to create a way towards the desired results in our lives. Stay away from people who act like a victim in problems they created. If you pay close attention, you will realize that you have them in personal friendships. And I will include us now. We have seen them around the precincts of power here in Grenada, led by that old nastiness from 1995 to 2022 for the most part. Yet for all, we can hear them complaining today, ascribing the problems they created to others while playing victim. Stay away from people who act like victim in problems they created. Folks, I'm sure you have a fair idea where this is going after this break. So let's take a little program ID break here, and we'll come right back with some real thought provokers. Stay tuned.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Oh, iron in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, higher. Going higher. As we inspire, build up us one people together. Bang, bang, bang. Slowly up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks, wonderful. As I told you just now, you have a fair idea where this is going because we have a lot of turkeys to fry today. And remember, our theme or topic is very pungent. Stay away from people who act like a victim in problems they created. These people who act like a victim in problems they created are huge red flags and will gaslight, manipulate, stonewall, and even blame shift, all so that they don't have to face the uncomfortable feelings of them being wrong or even being the problem itself. What do you call people who create problems then play victim? You see, even as we can put names to them here in Grenada, simply put, they could be only called narcissists. Such people may play the victims if they believe they gain something from making others feel guilty. Their tendency to use manipulation tactics is one of the formal symptoms of narcissistic personality. Look at how the old nastiness is coming out of the woodwork to play victim and speak hard on behalf of the poor and vulnerable, like if he really loves them in truth. People play victim in a problem they created when they fail to take responsibility. Defensiveness, minimizing their actions, mischaracterizing you as too sensitive or that you're making too big a deal of it. They lash out and lash out badly, forgetting their professional role or roles otherwise and showing their hand as unprofessional and even aligned. We recently saw one who, by virtue of the leadership role they play in our society, behaving very defensive and jumping onto another person's personal post on one of the social media platforms to pontificate and defend the old nastiness. When a comparison was made regarding the style of leadership during the passage of Hurricane Beryl as against that of the passage of Hurricane Ivan 20 years ago. Fair comment, but jump with vitriol. All I can say is, oh, Gede. Imagine all the other person was doing under their page was opining on an incontrovertible truth which offended all apologists with hues and cries of now is not the time. Listen to me, folks. You see where this is going. Rubbish to all that crap that now is not the time. When is the time? There is no better time than now to make the comparison. In the same way, according to Bob Marley, the bad people trying to make the world worse never take a day off. Why should the good ones sit idly by and remain silent? The bad people who brought our local civilization to its knees are not taking a day off. They are all over spouting nonsense and must be responded to forcefully, regardless as to whether it is right before the hurricane, during the hurricane while they're below the bed, or after the passage of the hurricane once they survived. If there is no day off for the local miscreants of our society, there should be no goddamn day off for the good people of our society too. This is precisely why we should stay away from people who act like a victim in problems they created. Toxic people see themselves as victims, even when it's clear they are not. They may play the victim card in order to gain the sympathy of the naive among us and get them to do what they want. I say to all of you who have been and continue to stand in the gap to defend the decent Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, stay focused and remember the assignment. The evil people who are suffering from political tabanka, who are treasury deprived, are hell-bent on not taking a day off in their effort to see if they could regain their national leading off. Remember, they are not prepared to work, and these times here, so and now call for work to be followed by reward. Allow me to remind you of the warning signs of toxic people. Feel like you're being manipulated when you're around them. You're constantly confused by the person's behavior. You feel like you deserve an apology that never comes. You always have to defend yourself to this person. You never feel fully comfortable around them. Those are the warning signs that you're in the company of toxicity. How many of you experience any or all of these signs from the people you currently have around you? Too many people who made poor choices in their lives and who today have gotten left to hug up their poor choices and want to come after those who remain consistent over the years to criticize them. Hello, hello, hello. Folks, anxiety mixed with foolish DNA has dire consequences on its victim. We are seeing this too often among us. Consistency leads to success, and people will respect you over time. If you will give consistency the prominence it deserves in your life, you would find that little bit of the main thing every day will take you a long way. Interestingly, a lot for a few days will take you nowhere. I have been doing these matter-of-factly broadcasts for nearly 40 years. In fact, I'm into my 40th year. And I can tell you that consistency has served to reinforce my vision and values. So the people who do not have concept of the magnitude of consistency, you will have to understand that if you are persistent, you will get it. But if you are consistent, you will keep it. I never thought I would be here today to say exactly the same thing I said almost 20 years ago in the early aftermath of the passage of Hurricane Ivan. Wow. This Hurricane Beryl, having devastated the Grenadine Islands to include Grenada's Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines is PSV, Union, Beckwith, One, Moustique, etc., has been bringing out the best in so many of our people, not to mention the worst in so many others. One would have thought that we would have positively evolved, moving, of course, in a northerly direction, instead of deteriorating, plowing southerly over time. But that has to do with poor leadership. Because when people have a nastiness to take cue from, they must sink to the level of the nastiness. You see, the advent of social media and the accustomedness to which many have become to using it for corny and puerile purposes exposes them and shows off their priorities in life. In good times, people have to be afraid to accept assistance for fear that it is all over Facebook, far less when catastrophe strikes. What is this about? It just shows how lacking many of us, many of our people are in true and meaningful socialization from the home. Even so-called religious people are in the front line portraying this slack behavior, not knowing anything about the coordination of relief from source, but using their NNP contacts within the current structure of NADMA to give them the heads up, and all over social media talking we. All of that said, we must commend them for their volunteer role and wish them well, because loads of others who have an opinion on everything and know how things should be are not presenting themselves. As Sawandi, my good friend, recently posted, quote, "All the experts will disappear and reappear after something happens again. But let's see how much NADMA's membership will increase. Red Cross and other community big groups. Time will surely tell," unquote. Folks, it's no secret that trauma drives behavior. In these desperate times for so many, people are immobilized by it. Some are influenced to good for others by it, while others are moved to behave vile and unacceptable by it. Whatever, we must find solace, because this too shall pass, for it will. Trust me, behavior now will not be normal at all, and all unaffected normal people who will be frustrated by it and will have to take a chill pill, because our annoyance will not change anything. We may be sucked into the behavior too if we do not keep a level head. Trust me, it is not easy. Yes, we can understand the pride people are feeling to be able to give, and being generous does carry with it pride beyond compare. But we must also think of the pride of the people to whom we are generous. Let's do what we must, but privately rejoice by invoking our spirituality instead of floating to prominence the man-made European version of our religious zealotism that too many of us are still slaves to, while refusing that even though we are slaves to it, it takes us nowhere. Just look around you and you will see what I'm talking about. The people who are highly religious, many of them lack faith. They have absolutely no principles and are devoid of scruples. They take the parts of the Holy Bible that suit their benefit and interpret same literally at the expense of their poor and vulnerable followers. Let us use the example of tithing, and you see where this is going. We need to adopt the policy of Kagame of Rwanda and forbid them from interfering with the purses of poor people, and by extension, their already compromised standard of living and quality of life. Our current leadership, headed by the decent Mitchell, not that old nastiness that we get rid of, has demonstrated that this current government, they are in this thing for the long haul. Our Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell marshaled the troops and dug in as head of national security and disaster management. And he spent the entire night with the NADMA team like never before, providing necessary updates on the whereabouts of the hurricane, advising and reassuring the nation. We have had experience with the passage of Hurricane Ivan, and that was not to be, as the experience was totally different. I dare any one of you to tell me now is not the time for that. Stay away from people who act like a victim in problems they created. Let's take another break and we'll come right back because this is crescendoing.
Has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftop and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Entitlement, I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe it's gonna be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. Be as we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, up, and more. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up a successful people together.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, and you better believe I've got it all because I put time into what I do. I don't come here hogwash and just pulling things from the sky and talking a set of nonsense about Hurricane Ivan came in the night and all kinds.
I mean, I see today people, when you're inviting them to a meeting, they're afraid to come.
Stupidness. You hear that old fool nonsense. Total nonsense. Hogwash. Something that came across there like a Spanish station. Miscreant. Anyhow, folks, it's all good. It's all good. We have a lot of turkeys to fry here today, and we are making joke. You know, people telling you now is not the time. Now is not the time for you to respond. Why you don't tell those people that are being responded to now is not the time for them to talk this crap that they're talking? Go and find them and tell them that when people are appropriately pushing back and responding. A lot of you coming with this crap nonsense. That is so vexing, one-sided rubbish. Go to hell, all of you. Our nation needs to know that these times here, so and now, call for youthful, energetic leadership, blessed with sound character, humility, stamina, and of course, brains, who could stay up beyond 8 o'clock in the night to take care of our nation's needs in times like these. I met a stout party supporter of the National Nasty Party, yes, the NNP, who told me in no uncertain terms, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell outshined the old nastiness totally. And you know what is interesting? In speaking to me, referring to him as the old nastiness. And he finally beginning to realize there is no coming back for the old nastiness after this season show up leadership of young Mitchell. What more can I say? What more can I say? And folks, when I tell you a stout party supporter, no joke, you know, this particular stout party supporter told me he was won over from the time the pension was paid so soon after election. And all these set of promises made just start coming up one by one. And he supported a party that promises were few to be accomplished and delivered for such a long period in office. Folks, a lot of people are repenting. A lot of people are repenting. You see, the nonsense of telling people this is not the time for this is rubbish. Anyone who feels this is not the time for this need to take the advice for themselves and realize this is definitely not the time to be out there playing perfect in a situation where the evildoers of society are not taking a rest. Get out of here with this crap and consider that this is not the time to prevent anyone from pushing back. You're going to lose. It is no self we pushing back. Michelle Obama once said, when they go low, we go high. You see where that fell? We all live to see that never worked for America, the so-called leader of the free world, which ended up in the hands of the most inferior leader in the history of the United States. And the people looking to take a second helping of him come November. You have to match the energy. And all soldiers in the trenches, now is the time to remain focused and alert to the shenanigans of the evil few headed by that old nastiness. We all have to remember that the old nastiness is the one who was given license to divide and rule Grenada as from 1995 to 2022 for the most part. That old fart of a nastiness is the one who marginalized the good Grenadians and adopted miscreants, promoting them to positions that they had absolutely no capacity nor competency for. Are you surprised that the police force and the entire public service are so wanting today in the immediate aftermath of extended tenure in office? Are you surprised that the entire nation has become programmed to be lawless in their daily walk, taking, of course, their cue from the biggest lawbreaker who made sure he positioned people in the same police force to carry out his orders, which they did dutifully. You see, when you hear perpetually pretensive people telling you now is not the time and be the bigger person, it is because they really want you to have a smaller reaction to troubling and problematic and even evil behavior. Go damn way. Go to hell with that. People who are still out there looking for friends may listen to you, not me. Unhealthy behavior in and over Grenada has gone unchecked for too goddamn long. But now it is colliding with the healthy boundaries many more of us ought to have established. This goddamn unhealthy status quo has become so much more comfortable than healthy change that when you stand up to protect it, these people who live in a fool's paradise expect people like us who pay attention to everything to remain calm and be the bigger person. I say to hell with that. I have seen even advocates and defenders of change in Grenada falling for this "now is not the time" crap and echoing it under people's posts. Don't fall for it. Better you keep quiet than for you to be echoing the sentiments of the naive Grenadians who do not understand the level of evil that the old nastiness and his gang are capable of. I am privy to much, and in good time I shall reveal some of their plans as recently discussed and hatched in their efforts to see if they could derail the recovery process. Their moles are at work, and as we find them out, we must expose them by name so the public could see who their tax dollars are paying to sabotage their very interests. Remember what I told you regarding what Bob Marley said? The bad people trying to make the world here in Grenada worse never take a day off. So why should the good ones sit idly by and remain silent? Now is the time, and you should not allow anyone to shut you up from pushing them back where they belong in protection of the transformation agenda. In times of crisis, evil tend to rise up to see how they can contribute to the chaos. We, the good people, have to beat them back into their holes at every turn. You see, ungrateful people are not bad people, you know, folks. And God knows Grenada, Jesus, is that Grenada is a factory for ungrateful people. But as I said, they're not bad people, they are evil. Look at how much ungratefulness we are witnessing around the place in the early aftermath of this crisis. They were taught by best and had a long period of training, 1995 to 2022 for the most part. Ingratitude is a destroyer, and that is why so many people live meaningless lives. Let us examine some signs of a stupid person which seem to be very popular around here in Grenada. They repeat mistakes just because they fail continuously to learn from past errors. They are overconfident as they claim to know everything without considering other viewpoints. Total lack of curiosity as they show little to no interest in learning new things or exploring different ideas. Rigid thinking which produces difficulties in considering alternative solutions. Consistently making poor decisions and choices. Repeatedly choosing actions with negative consequences and going back for second, third, and fourth helpings. Closed-minded and therefore unwilling to consider different perspectives. Inability to adapt, having difficulty adjusting to new situations or even information. Ignoring important feedback, disregarding constructive criticism, or refusing to learn from their mistakes. Such people are the type who would create problems and act like victims as a result of them when the consequences catch up with them. You are advised to stay away from them for fear that they gaslight you. Folks, we're hearing a lot about gratitude and the lack of it, especially in our society today. We ought not be surprised that kindness seems to be decreasing around us. This is because giving people are getting tired of being taken for granted, taken for a ride, because of the plethora of entitled people that we have nurtured around us. Our society is made up by and large of people who receive gifts from others as if they were in a relay race, without even looking back to say thanks while ensuring what they receive is desirable. They grab, take off, and then return, properly using the gift to see if they could get more. Yeah, more of that thing, Nena. This is them coming back when it finished, not having told you thanks. What kind of civilization is that? It is quite obvious. This is a civilization that bases its very existence on entitlement and dependency. These are undesirable habits that have morphed into DNA-infused skills that will continue to be the peril of our very civilization. I remind you of what Zig Ziglar said, which all my close friends could tell you I extol consistently by word and deed. Gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude for what you have, the more likely you will have even more to express gratitude for. That is familiar to me, as my deceased mother, God rest her soul, used to tell us, the more you give God thanks is the more he gives you to be thankful for. One woman related an experience she had while working in an office as a younger woman. She said at the end of the year, the employer decided to give the staff a raise. Although she was pretty new in that office, something in her told her to appreciate her boss. Even though her direct boss was not the CEO, she thought it fit to write a short note to her direct boss to say, "Thank you for the raise, sir." She was shocked when her direct boss called her into the office to thank her for writing this note, because according to him, it reminded him as well that he also needed to thank the CEO. Just look at the rippling and domino effect. Why are people generally not grateful? Because they think it is their right. They have the seal of entitlement. This young lady could have taken position as the rest of the staff and say, after all, he's supposed to increase the salary, so what? We have a lot of Grenadians like that. We all should realize that unspoken gratitude is ingratitude loudly spoken. Too much deafening ingratitude in Grenada. Our people have had long periods of training in the Department of Entitlement and Dependency, to the point where it is the culture of many of them to be stuck in a rut of poverty and vulnerability, and yet for all, love and revere their captor. That had to be obvious, you know, folks. That is not normal. That a nastiness capture you, put you on a vote farm, regulate you to crumbs, celebrating you constantly for the entire life of having you in this vote farm as poor and vulnerable, telling you often he loves you and you believe that, while you're being fed scraps off his table of plenty, and you love him. Is he all retarded? I always warn participants of any motivational session I conduct in the aftermath of COVID, an extended period that lasted us a great period of almost 3 years, that businesses are still rebounding. Many of them had to be refinanced, and in some cases with the effect as if they just started all over again in 2023. What does that mean? God forbid. God forbid one of the still to come predicted major hurricanes were to make a direct hit on Grenada. Trust me, folks, a lot of you with the entitlement and dependency culture would end up eating the bread the devil need. Maybe you'll eat the cell phone you have, and all them big fete you like to go to for $800 and posing with picture with Hennessy white or black or whatever they call it, big nice expensive bottle of thing, and you're drinking and you're making your pinky finger while you're drinking. You're living in Crab Hole, but you could afford $800 to go to FET. You're living in Crab Hole, but you could afford $3,000 telephone. Huh? Hurricane coming, you want somebody to prepare for you. You want to sit down home and make confusion for aid. But you ain't giving up your $3,500 cell phone. And if a FET come now and the VVIP or VIP, how much V they have now, I don't even know. If it all come and it's $1,200 you're finding the money, you see your priority is wrong side. But I'll tell you something, a lot of you will end up eating the bread the devil need because you're preparing yourself for that kind of future. Maybe that is what it would take to get many of you to change the way you think and operate. Showing up to work daily at any old time, giving less than your best, being rude and insubordinate, expecting and going as far as to noise for a raise of pay just because the cost of living has gone up, instead of realizing that you are paid to suit your level, both in education and output. If that inherently negative thinking does not change, you will meet it up. Trust me. I pray as 10 pundit would that we do not get another major hurricane, because a lot of you will eat dust. Renee, that attitude will cause you to eat dust. Grenadians ought to be proud of themselves for changing the guards on June 23rd, 2022. I am glad that people realized the need to employ a team that has good character and not a team that is skilled in skullduggery, trickery, corruption, nepotism, marginalization, inferiorization, pauperization, vulnerabilization, if ever there is a word, thieving, and downright nastiness. Machiavelli once said, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Even in general employment within business, folks, it is best to employ people with good character, who are likely to take night and make day to learn the skills needed to perform the job and perform it well. So even in your own way, you have to appreciate that you can teach a man of good character the skills, and he will help develop the company or business according to his vision. But you hire a man with skills only to find out that he has no good character, that he is just an old thief, and you will end up like Grenada ended up, with a decimated police force and public service, mangled state institutions, no standard and structure, lawlessness and chaos. Look at our nation. And if you are objective, you would realize that many of us mimic the characterlessness of such leader and his brigands and enablers. And for those of you just joining, you might be wondering if this is the time for this. You reach late, so I'll correct you too. You can either tune out or move along, or you can learn to pay attention, and you would see that in the midst of the crisis forged by the aftermath of the passage of Hurricane Beryl, that the inferior naysayers are raising volume and coming out of the woodwork to make mawes. We who are prepared to stand in the gap because we pay attention know the evil nature of the old nastiness who does not pretend, and how he and his brigands and enablers miss being around to make similar foolishness with the aid as during Ivan's recovery 20 years ago. Many of you out there, because of how traumatized you were by the passage of Ivan on one hand, and the marginalization you went through in its aftermath, you need to realize that one size does not fit all. We cannot paint this administration with the same brush used to paint the true reflection of the corrupt administration, the National Nasty Party back then. Oh no, every nasty thing you heard about them back then, in the aftermath of Ivan, they are coming up now to try to attribute to the members of the new decent administration we elected. They better get out of here with that. I would be the first one to expose any member of the new administration who want to take advantage of this current crisis to get rich and stockpile and hoard items, as was done by the brigands of the past. The loud clarion call for climate justice made by the entire region today is not falling on deaf ears at all. And we can see proper help and meaningful assistance coming our way. And the old nastiness and his brigands are nowhere around to be a part of or to spearhead. Wow, what a delight indeed. What a delight. Stay away from people who act like a victim in problems they created. Folks, when we come back with the last segment. More fire awaits you. So stick around. We're making no joke. Now is the time. And who vexed? Read the text.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to bake safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 up. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, one people together. Bang, bang, bang. Don't it up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wunderbar, wunderbar, as the Germans would say. Welcome back, folks. Of course, just visit any of the social media platforms, any of them. I think a lot of Grenadians don't really realize, they think this is a village thing. I think they think Facebook is only in their village. They don't realize the whole world is privy to the nonsense that they're getting on with. You will find a plethora of just crap. Advice coming from left, right, and center. Everybody has an opinion on where or what should go, who should get, how much they should get, when they should get, where needs to be cleared and cleaned, why this is not done yet, when is this, that, and the other going to be done, why NADMA should go here and where they should not go and be, why things donated should go to the central distribution point to be sorted, accusing people of taking things that should go to the relief efforts on the ground. all this time, these goddamn people who are out there running their dirty mouth are not even volunteering to assist. Heartlessly criticizing, have all sorts of advice. Criticizing and have all sorts of advice for the limited people who are in the heat and being overwhelmed because of scarce human resources. What kind of people are these people, Lord? Look at the number of GoFundMe accounts, funding appeals set up in this short space of time. I want to suggest strongly that the Financial Intelligence Unit, the FIU, should take note of everyone who knows of such individual funds and report them to the FIU so that accountability could be the order of the day. Because you and I know some people set up this thing to eat our food. My advice to all those of you who are actually worried about the issue of accountability when it comes to the National Disaster Fund established by the government of Grenada, headed by the decent Deacon Mitchell, you must be aware that the set of tomcats that you once employed to watch all your freshly caught jacks is no longer around. You should have full confidence that under the watch of the decent Deacon Mitchell, your funds will be duly accounted for. Stop living in the trauma of the past where you were afraid to donate for fear that your donation get inhaled. These times here, so and now, do not in any shape or form resemble the period of 2004 when accountability was abolished by the lawbreakers you employed with your eyes wide shut. One person called me to advise strongly that the Deacon Mitchell administration remove all moles from the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, who are positioning the inferiors with valuable information regarding aid so they can present as if they are coordinators of such aid coming from Trinidad and other overseas entities to score cheap political points. That is what you pretensive folks out there should sit up and pay attention to and declare, no, it's not the time for that. These people are not patriots. What I do know is now is the time to expose them all. You see, NADMA needs to keep a close eye on all packages coming through them with a view to filtering all political paraphernalia to include T-shirts in coolers with images of opponents of elected MPs of the affected areas. You see, I pay attention and a lot of you don't. That is why the old nastiness could have tied up among your head for so goddamn long. I already told you, the old nastiness ain't good, and it ain't good long. And now is as good as any other time to remind you of this. It's a good thing kayaks are proud people and are not inclined to be dependent on things like T-shirts. You see, many kayaks are clamoring for zinc, other roofing materials, plyboard, tarpaulin, and building materials to give them shelter, as they are good in the food department, even though they welcome the generosity of all. You see, many of them are okay financially and have relatives in the diaspora who are fully capable of taking care of their needs by way of food and other necessities. What they need is building materials so that they can rectify their security from the elements in the short term. Once they have safe spaces to sleep and operate domestically, then proper rebuilding can commence. Carrier Cone Pity Martinique should be focused upon as the model of climate resilience in terms of its reconstruction. Power lines and internet lines should be underground. Solar should be the order of the day for power going forward. Buildings should be concrete roofed. and windows should be shuttered. The new carrier in Martinique should be guided by properly designed building codes, which should be enforced without fear or favor. All the squabbling for immediate aid in this early stage of the aftermath of the passage of Beryl are either driven by the trauma of the situation on one hand, and on the other hand, by the infusion of petty politics and dunceness by the evil ones. No matter what the government does, the hot pit of petty politics, fueled by the dunceness of those who set out to infuse chaos in the mix, would surface. No one can stop that, as we had a very long period of such to germinate at the hands of the old nastiness from 1995 to 2022 for the most part. You see, our focus should be on rebuilding in a climate resilient context. Carriacou and Petit Martinique must be the model of the entire region. We have a golden opportunity to do just that. And with climate justice financing, oh, this is a given. That is what is annoying the evil ones headed by the old nastiness. The thought that they are not around to coordinate such a mega project. What they can't understand is that their time has passed and they failed miserably. Let's do some maths here. Hurricane Janet was 1995, and some 50 years later, Hurricanes Ivan and Emily landed. It only took a couple months shy of 20 years for Beryl to come after Ivan. How long will it take for the next one? We also have to bear in mind that this season, just started for 2024, and we are only 36 days in. What this is showing us is that climate change is real, and the rate at which climate change is closing in and affecting our small island states is very fast. Our rebuilding efforts must be smart, and our central government must put strict building codes in place as part of the way forward for the preservation of our civilization. We also have to put things in place to prosecute any public official who circumvent those codes for either bribes or just to facilitate their partners and friends. This must be taken seriously because we're playing with lives going forward. Once the issue of preserving Carriacou for the future, we have to look at that too, because we have to appreciate that the entire world over recognize the people of Carriacou as the second nation in the entire Caribbean region with close cultural ties through customs to that of West Africa, Haiti being the first. That is part of our cultural patrimony that we need to ensure the preservation of. Therefore, we ought to treat with any rebuilding of Carriacou and Petit Martinique with the restoration of their rich cultural heritage in mind. Can you feel the love and the high regard I have for Carriacou? You see, within recent times, my visits to Carriacou to deliver motivational sessions there always saw me begging them to come back together as the one people they used to be before the politics of division, the politics of divide and rule was championed in 1995 going forward. Maybe Beryl has come to make that happen now. I recall my introduction to Carriacou was at the tender age of 9 through the owner of Sea Fortress, a wooden vessel that used to ply the Trinidad-Grenada route with cement and or sugar, the occasional run to Guyana for rice, Mayor Joseph and his dear wife Tan May, and wonderful family used to host me just about every summer vacation as I was until I was about 13 years of age. I rode donkey like never before, as back then there were few cars, needless to say, few roads, most of which were dirt tracks back then. The port of arrival was always Harvey Vale, and my last place where I slept and stayed for my entire summer vacation was at Montjalou. You see, Carriacou and I have history, which I remember fondly. One thing that stood out to me is that every old person back then who was somebody's grandfather was referred to fondly and respectfully as Papa, while Granny was always regarded as Tanty or just Tan, Tan Mavis, Tan May, Tan Teresa, Tan Clovis. It was cousin this, cousin that, and cousin the other. They were one people before the architects of divisive politics arrived and put them against each other. Well, Beryl presented as the great equalizer today, where all kayaks and pity Martinicans can seize the opportunity to reignite that fire of togetherness once more. They all have the same problems today and ought to be easily united as one in this common cause. I pray to God that they never lose what they always had and were known for again when the dust finally settles. As it relates to our mainland of Grenada, these times here, so and now could be regarded as a reset for the next 50 years. Beryl has come to help Grenada shape a new focus for true and genuine people development, considering that we are nowhere close to the level of patriotism we once felt in the early stages of Gary's reign and throughout the entire life of the revolution 1979 to 1983. Efforts must be made during this mandatory reset opportunity for us to reignite that fire in our souls for nationhood. These times here, so and now, are screaming for us to introduce with speed our rich local history to our youthful population, help our people set priorities so they line up their lives properly. You see, the next 50 years need to be better than the last. That deep, dark hole of nothingness that we are seeking to emerge from, that the old nastiness sunk us so deep into from 1995 to 2022 for the most part, has got to be outdone and outdone fast. It must be recorded on the epitaph of the current decent Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, a rich legacy indicating that in spite of his limited time in office, his administration achieved much more for the people's true north development than his longest serving parallel of same last name. That in itself is the making of a telling blow to the old nastiness, whose achievements in 23 years cannot match the Deacon Mitchell's 2 years in office, not to mention his very leadership style during national hurricane event when compared with the old nastiness's lack of performance. I meant missing in action during the entire passage of the Hurricane Ivan. And now is the time to make mention of these things, for fear that many of you of convenient, shallow memory forget. Do you recall when the old nastiness was alleged to have told his then counterpart in South that the NDC boys were planning to overthrow him when he was scared that his 1-seat, 6-vote majority may not hold up in the early aftermath of the passage of Ivan? You see, folks, I pay attention. And when one pays attention, one always has the files. As I close today, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to the volunteers. Grenlek, wow, you have done a sterling job. Touche to you and all your stuff. Your linesmen, y'all are just a marvel. I tell people, stop mounting Grenlek because of petty politics. Attack who you have to attack, but leave Grenlek alone. Grenlek is a strong, structured, and organized and well-managed company. I'm very proud of them. We also have to say thanks to Nawasa, to Flo, to Digicel, to the airlines, the shippers, small, medium, and large marine craft operators, charities locally, regionally, and internationally, supermarkets, shops, hardware companies, NGOs, community groups, clubs, water companies in terms of drinking water, government ministers, all elected MPs, especially the ones in the affected areas. I'm not talking about the MPs that are elected and are missing in action just outside there like miscreants talking crap. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about proper MPs who understand the assignment. Our national police, nurses, doctors, and other health workers, port workers, customs, all airport operatives, whether you work in the Met Office, air traffic control, security, customer service, administration, or customs, immigration, public works, truckers, broadcasters, bloggers, vloggers, positive and well-meaning social media influencers, other businesses donating, and all arms, all the armchair, advisors. We have a lot of armchair advisors at home, ain't doing nothing, but they're just advising, who sit home and pollute social media with great advice. All the political frauds who are receiving information from their moles in the government service and NADMA and presenting themselves in affected areas as if they are the organizers of certain aid packages out of Trinidad and other regional donors, et al. Carriacou and Petit Martinique must rise again, and in short order. This little discomfort, albeit very traumatic, is all part of the sacrifice necessary for the construction of a stronger and more climate resilient Carriacou and Petit Martinique. I leave you with this profound thought today, folks. The greatest threat to freedom is freedom. For freedom to be genuinely enjoyed, it must have boundaries in order that its recipients remain free. You cannot be in debt, all in over your head, and not have a plan to climb your way out of it. Once you come out, you declare your freedom. In the process, you will have built into your life and management going forward certain boundaries to protect you from going back into the bondage of debt. Too many of us misunderstand freedom and feel it means you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, because it is your constitutional right. That is simply not true. There are rules and boundaries to protect that freedom, to keep you free and sustain that cherished freedom. My kayak posse, my Petit Martinique PM posse, my St. Patrick's posse, trust me, you will all rise again in short order. Help is here. Only this time, it is structured like you never knew it. Proper minds are now in charge of Grenada's affairs, as you sensibly chose on June 23rd, 2022. God's guidance be with you during this season of recovery, throughout the entire season of rebuilding, and of course, the rest of this year's Atlantic hurricane season. Focus on the good and the positive developments. Scroll past the negatives and game playing in this your season of need. I want to remind you that the owners of the vote farm are out looking for souls to capture, to repopulate the vote farm once more. They don't care where they capture you from. In your time of crisis, they are out seeking to take advantage of you in your vulnerable state. Pay attention and don't listen to them telling you that the current administration, led by the decent Mitchell, don't like poor people. They are the ones who proved between 1995 and 2022, for the most part, that they don't like poor people, as is evidenced by the number of poor and vulnerable they left in spite of being in office, the longest in our entire 50-year period of independence. Now is the time to remember that and don't fall for their out-of-timing nonsense. Stay away from people who act like a victim in problems they created. While you're at it, realize that the accusations you are hearing rather, and will continue to hear coming from the nastiest set of people to ever occupy the seat of power in and over Grenada, are a total reflection of who they are, led by that old nastiness, and a vain attempt to distract while attributing these aspersions to others. I am more and more convinced. Folks, come on, let me see you put it in the comment section. Hashtag Keith gone and he not coming back. Keith gone and he not coming back. I am totally convinced of that. Keith gone and he not coming back. I am in, I am out, and I am gone. Thanks for joining. Continue to share. Good. And of course, see you next week, God willing, at the same time, same place, for more extraordinary programming. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and be vigilant and prepared, and remain lifted. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type in my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. Subscribe, like, and share. And be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them. Toodaloo, folks. Have a good one. Remember, hashtag Keith gone and he not coming back. I am totally convinced of that. Totally. Just as I was convinced on the 23rd of June, he will be gone. And folks, gone forever. You cannot tell me a man that is out to burn the whole place down just because he's not in power could be qualified. Any of you in your proper head to come out and support him again. You all had to be totally retarded and out of your mind. But that is why I'm totally convinced that you're not, and therefore he's gone and he's not coming back. Have a great one, folks. Take great care of your wonderful selves. Whew. This was really, really enjoyable. I had fun.
Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CCHT. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper health care and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family. So every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cool Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Venture outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe the list gon' be 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years is strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going high. 50 years we're blessed with much fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, up, up. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher. Going higher. As we aspire.